when I went to college, I was like, what do I want to major in? And I majored in wildlife and fisheries at first because I enjoyed the outdoors and enjoyed animals. And but I got a little concerned about economic opportunities because I didn't realize that when you work in wildlife and fisheries, you get a lot of times a free truck, a free boat, a free four-wheeler, a free trailer, a free house, free electricity, free phone, free gas. And so I didn't understand that with their income being so low, I didn't understand all the other benefits because I was young and ignorant as to how things really worked. And so I decided to reevaluate what I was going to study. And so I got out of the animal sciences or wildlife and fisheries for a bit and went into accounting because I was really good at math. Also, math and science were all my key strengths.
Right.
And then I was looking at that, and even though I was pretty good at accounting, it just didn't have that same interest. And I was like, this really isn't what I want to do for a living. So I reassessed myself and my career goals, and things that I always enjoyed doing was working with young people in education and also working with animals. So I went back and majored in animal sciences and got a degree in animal sciences with my initial studies being largely on behavior and husbandry. And then my master's degree, I majored in reproductive physiology in the Department of Animal Sciences to get a better understanding of the genetic side of things and how the reproductive system really worked, and because I thought that was important to breeding. So, that's where my diploma is from, and, or the basis of my education. And so then later on, I also wanted, when I had my independence and wanted my own dog, I was looking at a lot of the dogs that were out there that were available to choose from, and I wasn't really satisfied with things. A lot of breeds were plagued with disease. A lot of the functionality had disappeared because people were breeding for show dogs or for cosmetics.
Right.
And I wanted a working-class dog, a very powerful dog that could go kayaking with me or hiking with me. And, we'd kayak in remote areas so the dog could follow us in the river, basically back then. And because we're talking about 30 years ago where there were still a lot of very secluded areas. And so when I was at the University of Illinois and I studied different breeds of dogs and such, I came across John Swinford's work in the Animal Sciences Library at the University of Illinois when I came across Carl Sementik. Carl Sementik gave reference to John Swinford in his book called The World of Fighting Dogs. And they actually had that in the Ag Library at UVI. Now, UVI is a huge school. They have a giant library, but this particular book was in the Department of Agriculture's library, which is a much smaller library, but they had books particularly in the subject of the Department of Agriculture, and domesticated animals such as dogs fall into that category of agriculture. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's pets and farming is different, but they're both in the Department of Animal Sciences.
Right.
And I just really liked his work. So, he only bred dogs for 3 generations, 2.5 to 3 generations, because his 3rd generation was being born around the time that he died, so he certainly didn't finish a program. But he still produced some pretty nice animals that displayed a lot of the traits that I desired. And I didn't start breeding, until, a decade later in 2000. This was because I came across the work in 1990, or 1991. And I didn't start breeding until 2000 because I don't really think you should breed until you have the resources to care for all the offspring, which means I needed some land and economics and kennels and all that.
For sure.
You should never breed for a dog that looks a certain way, because when you breed for a dog that looks a certain way, you're not going to assess so many other things that matter more importantly than the look. Like I referred to before with the show breeders, they look at structure, and there may be, like you're designing a robot or a machine, there may be certain angles that mathematically work out ideal. And when you breed a show dog, you might even get those ideal numbers in terms of physics. Mm-hmm. But you're missing the desire, the circulatory system, the nervous system, the endocrine system, the respiratory system, the nerves of the dog, the desire of the dog, the structural soundness of the joint, the ligament tissue, the tendon tissue, all that connective tissue really comes into play. Mm-hmm. Bone density, you can't really see bone density in the show. So Is a dog working off fast twitch muscle, slow twitch muscle? How good is their mitochondria in the cells? These are things that you can't look at a dog and tell. You actually have to work the dog. But that said, if we look at some of the best performing individuals out there, a lot of times you'll end up seeing a dog that's got kind of like a roached croup, mildly roached, not heavily roached, but mildly roached, which means a little bit of curvature in the rear of the back. You'll see that when some of the greatest American Pit Terriers ever lived were built that way. Look at Bolio from Patrick's Yard. Look at a lot of the Sorrell's dogs.
Mm-hmm.
They have somewhat of a roached croup more often than not, at least when they're conditioned and the muscles are tight and fit. Of course, things can change with diet. But as far as the ears go, every wild mammal has an erect ear. The closest thing you can look at finding in the wild that doesn't have an erect ear is an elephant. And if you actually look at the elephant, it's not a floppy ear, despite the cartoons that make the ear floppy. That elephant is able to hold that ear straight out, swing it back and forth like a fan, and still lost. If it was a floppy ear, he wouldn't be able to lift it off his head like Jumbo or like some Basset Hound. They can't even lift their ears up.